Water is involved in every aspect of my life. I spend every afternoon swimming back and forth through gallons and gallons of water in swim practice. I have 3 full drawers of water bottles at home and carry one around everywhere I go. My favorite place in the whole world is in the middle of a lake at a camp I've gone to for the last 10 years, and I love to kayak, surf, and paddleboard. Whenever my hands smell like Play-Doh from playing with my 5-year-old next door neighbor, I turn on a faucet to wash them. My room is painted the same shade of blue as the ocean on a cloudy day, and I even live in the middle of a lake. I used to take water for granted, and sometimes I still do. But working with an organization called Water First for the past year and a half, I've learned again and again just how valuable of a resource water really is. Water First is an organization that works to provide clean, accessible water and toilets to poor communities of Honduras, Bangladesh, Ethiopia, and Mozambique. Their approach, which differs from some, is to put in simple, piped water systems that they know will work, instead of trying to use the fanciest gadgets or the newest technology to do the job. Last spring, I had the opportunity to travel to Imperial, Honduras with Water First. And at the time, I'd been working with the organization for a little less than a year, learning how they choose their project locations, decide which local organizations to work with, and make sure that they'll be able to monitor their projects for years to come. And this trip was the chance to finally see firsthand the impact that clean water has on poor communities. And what I saw astounded me. The difference between communities that didn't yet have a water system and those that did was enormous. In the communities that had clean water, the people looked better nourished, stronger, and healthier. Far more children were in school, women had a much larger leadership role, and families had higher incomes. It was clear that the people appreciated the transformation that had occurred in their lives. One of the events that we attended was a water inauguration ceremony to celebrate the opening of a brand new water system. The celebration marked the first time that anyone in the community had ever had access to household water. At the ceremony, speeches were given, food was served, and agreements were signed. And at the very end of the ceremony, a woman stood up in front of a large crowd and shattered the clay jug that she had been using to carry water every day since she was a young girl. At the very end of this, the crowd applauded, knowing that better times were ahead. Around the globe, 2.5 billion people do not have access to clean water and a simple toilet and have to walk hours each day just to get to bacteria-filled, contaminated water sources. I experienced what this meant firsthand in a small village called El Sompopo. In El Sompopo, we walked with the women and children to their water source that they use for every drop of their cleaning, drinking, and bathing water. And we hiked for miles and miles in the hot Honduran sun, and by the time we got there, all I wanted was a cold drink of water. And that's when I saw their water source. It was nothing more than a large, muddy puddle, probably a little bit bigger than this red circle. And I couldn't believe that the people of El Sompopo had to drink out of this, because I knew that I certainly wouldn't. 5 million people, mostly children under the age of 5, die from water-related illnesses each year, from drinking out of water sources just like this one. And it's not just the people's health that's affected. They are impacted socially and economically as well. Because women and girls are traditionally responsible for water collection, they are unable to go to school, get a job, or help lead the community. And this perpetuates traditional gender roles and traps communities in a cycle of poverty. Solving this enormous issue sounds daunting, and it is. But there are hundreds of organizations just like Water First that have worked tirelessly to research, fundraise, and implement their attempts to solve the world water crisis. In fact, $10 billion are spent on water systems in poor communities each year. But if so much money and time are being put into solving this problem, then why are there still 2.5 billion people that don't have access to clean water? The answer is simple. Most of these organizations aren't putting in the right type of water systems. Statistically, 35 to 50% of water systems will fail within the first 2 years, either because of lack of organization, mechanical problems, the list goes on and on. But most frequently, a water system will fail because it wasn't working for the community, because the organization never stopped to ask the people what they wanted or needed. In the early 2000s, a solution to the world water crisis seemed near. An organization had just unveiled a play pump, a technology that promised to bring thousands of African communities clean water by harnessing children's energy. The play pump is a playground merry-go-round that is attached to a water pump, and the idea behind it was that as the children spun on it, the water would come from deep underground into an above-water holding tank, and the people could get water from it all day. The idea sounded so promising that celebrities, the US government, CEOs, all invested millions and millions of dollars into the play pump. Thousands of play pumps were placed all over Africa, and many believed that the end of the world water crisis was on the horizon. So, 10 years later, why are there still 2.5 billion people that do not have access to clean water? Because the play pump was a perfect example of disconnect between Western humanitarian organizations and the people they are trying to serve. Almost as soon as installation began, issue after issue began coming up with the devices, and the organization behind it was unreachable. Reports were flooding in about how the play pumps weren't working and how they weren't what the community needed. But most of all, the children had stopped playing on the play pumps. They got tired and they got bored of performing the same activity day after day after day. And as soon as they stopped playing, the water stopped flowing, and the communities were left even worse off than they had been before, because play pump had taken over their existing water pumps to put in their own devices. And at the surface level, this just seems like one badly designed solution. And it was. But the real problem is much deeper than that. Play Pump International walked into communities with their product already in hand, never stopping to ask the people what they wanted or needed. They believed that their solution was the best and that they knew more than the people they were helping. And this is the real reason why their project failed. So, what can we learn from Play Pump's mistakes so that we don't end up wasting millions of dollars and hours on a solution that doesn't even work? And the answer is one that I believe Water First has already figured out. According to Water First, there is a philosophical value that we hold up. We start from a true place of respect for the people we assist. We believe poor people are their own best resource in escaping poverty, and we support solutions based on their priorities. We need to ask what will work best for them, not walk in assuming that we know better than they do. As I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate enough to travel to Honduras in 2017 with Water First. From the casual interactions to the formal meetings, it was clear to me how much mutual respect existed between the Honduran people and the Water First representatives. Water First involves the local people at the outset of the project. Because they respect the people that they work with, they know that the locals need to be invested throughout the process for any of this to work. The locals participate in the planning, the installation, and the management of the water systems. In fact, the people at the community sign agreements in which they commit to keeping the water systems in good working order. Water First knows that it can't single-handedly bring water to a community. Rather, the effort must be collaborative. Most of the time, people who put in water projects really do want to help. However, because their philosophy is wrong, often they end up hurting more than they help. This doesn't only apply to water projects, but also to service of all kinds, both across the world and in our own city. The key to combating this problem is starting from a true place of respect for the people we are helping. We need to follow their vision, not ours, if we are to be successful. Thank you.